smothered meatballs. What are they smothered in? Deliciousness, that's what. It's coming up on the Last Minute Cook. We are making smothered meatballs, and they're delicious, they're quick, and they're just a fun twist on your traditional like red sauce meatballs. We'll be using some ground beef, and we're starting with the meatballs. I'm going to be using some Italian herbs, some breadcrumbs, a couple of eggs, and a little bit of olive oil. That's for the meatball set part of this recipe. So let's get started with that. We are going to use, this is an actual measurement. It says a 1.3 of a pound. So between a pound or two should work great for these meatballs of ground beef. And just get that right into your blender. You can mix this by hand, but I just like to use my mixer for everything. And we are going to put in about a tablespoon of, I use Italian herbs. This one is a garlic powder with parsley. And I just like to use it on a lot of stuff. It just really adds a nice little flavor to the meatballs. This is about a tablespoon or so of the garlic powder with the parsley. And we are going to use 2 eggs. We'll just get those right in there. And it's 1. Careful cracking eggs right into your ingredients, because if you get that eggshell, it's a little bit difficult to get out. So careful with that. You can always crack them first into another container and then pour them in. Once the egg kind of incorporates and you've got your herbs in there, we'll go about a cup of breadcrumbs. And then we want about a tablespoon of olive oil. All right, so once we've got our meat all mixed, let's form our meatballs. And just you grab about a pinch and just in cupped hands with a little bit of pressure, just form a meatball about that size. And we're just gonna do that until this is done. Just a pinch at a time, a little bit of pressure in your cupped hands. Around and around she goes. There it is. Just going for consistent size so that they cook evenly. And this is a great base just for almost any kind of meatball that you're going to be making. Depending on whatever sauce you want, you can use this as your meatball base for the meatballs themselves, and then change up your sauce for some variety. All right, the ingredients for our soffritto, which is the next step, the sauce, we are using a full yellow onion and sliced super, super thin. Just want to show you. Like if you can, it's almost paper thin. You can kind of see right through them. This will help with the sauce. So just get that as thinly cut as you can. And this is 1 large yellow onion. We're using 2 tablespoons of butter, 1 generous teaspoon of minced garlic. If you like garlic, you can go a little heavy on that. And that's it. We'll throw in a tablespoon of olive oil as well. So that's it for our sofrito. We're going to start by getting our pressure cooker onto saute on high. So it's on saute, it's on high. Don't worry about however many minutes are showing there. And hit start. So we're going to put butter, the 2 tablespoons, our full onion, all in, and our minced garlic. And I usually tell y'all not to throw that minced garlic in too early because it has a tendency to burn. But this, we are not cooking the onions all the way down. We really just want to kind of gently cook them down. We want them to reserve some of their water for the next cycle of our cooking, for the pressure cooking. So we're not going to cook all the way down. So this is just going to be maximum about 2 minutes of sauteing these onions with this butter and the garlic. Okay, so we're getting that butter to melt down, and we want to add about a tablespoon of oil as well. That was kind of a heavy tablespoon, which is okay. You do not have to be exact on these measurements. I think measuring slows us down. And again, this is only about a 2-minute step. This looks like a ton of onion. I mean, it's a whole entire onion, but you'll see that it really does. I mean, we're not going to cook it down in this sofrito stage, but you'll see when we're done with this delicious smothered meatballs, why you want to go with the whole onion. I have a similar recipe if you would like to check that out. I have a smothered pork chops recipe that has a very similar ingredient base, so make sure and check that out. And if you like meatballs, I have a Italian meatball recipe if you want to jump over and check that out. So I've got two that kind of play on these two parts of this recipe. And if you're liking this video, give me a thumbs up. I sure love those thumbs up. So we've cooked these nice and thin. We've waited till they've gotten nice and yellow, and it looks like everything is nice and absorbed. And that, we're gonna go ahead and hit cancel on our Instant Pot and let that sit. And now we are going to pull our meatballs that we've set aside, we just prepared, and put them right into our onions. Just set them right on top. Once we've got our meatballs in, we take our dissolved bouillon. This is the bouillon base. This is a teaspoon of a beef bouillon base, or you could use a bouillon cube that's also dissolved. This is a 1/4 cup of water that I've dissolved it in warm water. And just pour that right on top of your meatballs. And then, for this stage, that's it. We are going to set this on, not using this hand, we're going to set this on pressure cook on high pressure for 10 minutes. Let me get the time moved over down to 10. And make sure you're on high pressure, 10 minutes, and hit start. Make sure you're on sealing, not venting. We are going to also allow about a 10-minute natural release. So 10 minutes high pressure, 10 minutes natural release, and I'll show you what the next step is. Okay, after allowing a 10-minute natural release, I went ahead and quick released the rest of the pressure. Of course, if you lose track of time, you can let it sit longer. It's not going to be an issue for these meatballs. They're nice and tender and juicy. And I love this recipe because we didn't have to add any extra liquids. We just used the liquids from our onion and the natural juices from the meat and that little bit of liquid from the bouillon. And so we have these delicious, just gently scoop them out. And also, you might get some onions while you're pulling them out, but try to leave as much of the onion in your pot as you can, because we are going to use that. So we want those to stay behind. And you can see this beautiful onion sauce that's in this pot waiting for us to turn it from what already looks awesomely delicious to something even better. So we're going to set the meatballs aside, but it's always a good idea to check for doneness when you're cooking meat. So I mean, I can look at them and see that they are fine, but let's just double check. Just open one of them up. Let's put our Instant Pot back onto a high saute. We want to bring that heat back, hit start. Let that start heating, and then just get your cornstarch. This is a tablespoon dissolved in a touch of cold water. Pour that into our hot liquid right there. Give it a good stir as that heat is coming back. Doing so will help break these onions up. Now, if you don't have cornstarch on hand, you could use flour. You could use a couple of tablespoons of flour. If you're looking for keto friendly, of course, you could skip the breadcrumbs in the meatball, and instead of the cornstarch or flour, you could use an almond flour. I would probably go 3 or 4 tablespoons of almond flour here. So there's some variations for you. But I like to keep cornstarch on hand because it's just such a quick thickening agent for our sauces. Okay, so you can already see it starting to thicken up. Now I'm just going to give it a nice brisk whisk and really break up those onions. And because we're using the yellow onion, it's a nice, the sweet flavor. It's not too strong, even though we used an entire onion in this. Okay, when it gets about this thick, you can see it ribboning, the ribbon effect when you stir in here, and you see that your onions are nicely broken down. We are ready. And then I'm just going to go ahead and put the meatballs, or you can put them back in and coat it, or you can pour the sauce right over the meatballs, which in this case, since my meatballs are already in a serving bowl, that's exactly what I'm going to do. So you can just pour that right over the top. Now see how thick this is? You guys. Okay. These are smothered meatballs. And I told you, smothered in deliciousness. We're gonna have to give this a try. Now, what are you gonna serve these with? We can do garlic bread. We can do a side of buttered pasta, just a little bit of butter and oil and maybe a touch of garlic, just white pasta. I would love to hear from you in the comments below about how you're gonna serve this. Tender. These meatballs are so tender. And the perfect flavor of the onion, sweetness, and savory all together. I can't use my fork again. You guys, okay, smothered meatballs. And again, if you haven't subscribed, do that now so you get more episodes like this from me. And also, if you like this, check out my other meatball recipe or my smothered pork chops. Both of those use ingredients right from this. Thank you so much for watching. Buon appetito, and we'll see you soon.